I settled for oak because it had been her favorite tree, and because she had always wanted to know whether the furniture she bought was made of oak. My ex-husband suggested mauve for the lining. He was proud, almost happy to remember that she often wore blouses of the same color. I wrote out a check for the assistant. The firm took care of everything, except the supplying of flowers. I got home around midday and had a glass of port with my ex-husband. My head and my stomach started to ache. Around 5 o'clock, I called the hospital to ask if I could go and see my mother at the morgue with my 2 sons. The girl on the switchboard told me it was too late. The morgue closed at 4:30. I got out the car and drove around the new part of town near the hospital, trying to find a flower shop open on a Monday. I asked for white lilies, but the florist advised against them. They were suitable only for children, possibly for young girls. The burial took place on the following Wednesday. I arrived at the hospital with my 2 sons and my ex-husband. The morgue wasn't signposted, and we lost our way before discovering the low concrete building which lay on the edge of the fields. An assistant in a white coat was talking on the phone. He signaled to us to sit down in a corridor. We sat on chairs lined up against the wall, opposite the lavatories. Someone had left the door open. I wanted to see my mother once more, and place on her breast the 2 twigs of japonica blossom I had brought with me. We didn't know whether they intended to show us the body one last time before closing the coffin. The undertaker's assistant we had seen in the shop emerged from an adjoining room and graciously asked us to follow him. My mother was lying in the coffin, her head thrown back, her hands clasped together on the crucifix. The white gauze had been removed, and she was wearing the nightdress with a crochet border. The satin shroud reached up to her chest. It was in a large, bare room with concrete walls. I don't know where the faint light came from. The assistant informed us that the visit was over, and he led us back into the corridor. I felt that he had shown us my mother simply to prove that his firm had carried out its duties satisfactorily. We drove through the new part of town until we reached the church, which had been built next to the arts center. The hearse hadn't arrived, so we waited in front of the church. Across the street, someone with tar had smeared, "Money, consumer goods, and the state are the 3 pillars of apartheid," on the facade of the supermarket. A priest stepped forward. He addressed me in affable tones. "Was she your mother?" and asked my sons where they went to university and what they were studying. A curious little empty bed, edged with red velvet, had been laid down on the bare cement floor in front of the altar. Later on, the undertakers placed my mother's coffin on top of it. The priest switched on a tape recorder that played organ music. We were the only people present at the service. Nobody around here knew my mother. The priest sang canticles and spoke of eternal life and the resurrection of our sister. I wanted the ceremony to last forever. I wanted more to be done for my mother. More songs, more rituals. The organ music started up again, and the priest extinguished the candles on either side of the coffin. Immediately after the service, the undertaker's hearse left for Yvetot in Normandy, where my mother was to be buried beside my father. I traveled in my own car with my sons. It rained during the whole journey, with the wind blowing in sharp gusts outside. The boys questioned me about the service, because it was their first experience, and they hadn't known how to behave during the ceremony. In Yvetot, the family had assembled near the entrance to the cemetery. One of my cousins shouted to me from a distance, "What weather! You'd think we were in November!" to cover the embarrassment of watching us approach. We all walked together towards my father's grave. It lay open, the freshly dug earth forming a yellow mound on one side. My mother's coffin was brought forward. When it was lowered into the pit, the men holding the ropes told me to step forward so that I could see it slide down in the hole. A few meters away, the gravedigger was waiting with his spade. He had a ruddy complexion and was wearing blue overalls, a beret, and boots. I felt like going up to him and giving him 100 francs, thinking he might...